Hey there, space fans. You sent us tons of stuff about SpaceX's Starship program, and especially the new launch coming up. We're going to do a deep dive into Starship version 2 and all the cool new features.
It's going to be the first version 2 Starship we've ever seen. It's got a bunch of upgrades.
Yeah, there's a lot about those new flaps. They look totally different.
Right. Think about when the Starship comes back to Earth. Those flaps have to handle crazy heat and force. The old design made the Starship kind of tip up because of the weight of the engines.
Oh, right.
So they made them slinker for version 2. They're tucked in to cut down on drag.
Okay, less drag. I get it. Smoother landing. And I guess that helps protect them from all the super hot air too, right?
Definitely. Being tucked in means they're shielded more. That's a big deal for how long they last. They're thinking ahead.
Yeah. Speaking of thinking ahead, the propellant tanks are way bigger now, like 25% bigger. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah. It is. And they did it in a couple of cool ways. First, they made the top of the tank, the dome, a new shape. So there's more space inside. But get this, they made the Starship taller. Like they added another whole section.
Whoa, so a whole taller Starship just to fit more fuel in? That's wild. But this one, I don't get it. The articles say the payload bay is smaller now. Why'd they do that? It seems backwards.
Right. But here's the thing. They've got this new way to pack in the satellites. It's like when you could fit more clothes in your suitcase when it's organized.
Okay, I see. So smaller bay, but they can still fit more satellites in.
Exactly. 50% more, even though the bay's smaller. SpaceX is all about squeezing out every bit of efficiency.
Which makes sense when you're thinking Mars missions. Everything has to be as small and light as possible.
Totally. And speaking of efficiency, they're also going to try launching satellites without even going into orbit.
Wait, how does that work? I thought you had to reach orbit to let go of satellites.
You used to. But SpaceX built this crazy new system that can let them go even on suborbital flights.
So they can test things without doing a full, expensive orbital mission. Pretty smart.
Yeah. And it could make launching stuff cheaper in the future, too. Faster testing, less risk. It's a win-win. Speaking of pushing the limits, this Starship's got the new Raptor engines, right?
Yep, the Raptor 3s. This is their first flight.
Those engines are next level. They are more efficient, more powerful, and more reliable. Each one has 10% more thrust than the old ones.
Wow, so they can lift a lot more. That'll be important for long missions.
For sure. But safety is obviously still a top priority. They've got a new data recovery system on this Starship. It's going to collect all kinds of information during the flight.
So they can really dig into the data and learn from every little thing that happens.
Exactly. Plus, they've added more safety and emergency systems. They want to make sure every Starship is safer than the one before.
So it's not just about how cool the launch looks. It's about learning and getting better. They're constantly tweaking things. It's really cool.
Exactly. That's what makes them different. They're pushing the limits and being super careful at the same time.
So we've got the new flaps, bigger fuel tanks, smaller payload bay, the powerful new engines, and all of the safety stuff. What a beast this new Starship is.
Oh, and you mentioned something about some inside info on the heat shield.
Oh, yeah. That's where things get really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
My contact at SpaceX told me some things about those new heat shield tiles. They're pretty amazing.
Okay, I'm dying to know. What's the deal with these new tiles?
Well, first you got to remember how crazy the conditions are when the Starship comes back to Earth. Thousands of degrees Fahrenheit, all because of friction with the air.
Yeah, it's insane.
And the heat shield is what protects the whole thing. Remember how some of the tiles got messed up on those other flights? Some even came off?
Yeah.
SpaceX knows how important it is to get this right. These new tiles are supposed to be a lot tougher.
Makes sense if they want to send people to Mars, right? I mean, you'd need a heat shield you could trust for a trip like that. Exactly. So what makes these tiles so special? Well, they're using some new materials, and the design is totally different. It makes them way more resistant to heat and stress. But I can't tell you exactly what they did. They're keeping that secret.
Top secret stuff. But it sounds like these new tiles are a big deal.
They really are. Just think, if they work like they're supposed to, it could change how we build spacecraft. We might be able to go way farther, even send people to Mars.
Wow. That's incredible.
It all comes back to pushing the limits while staying safe. And don't forget those data systems we talked about. They're going to tell SpaceX exactly how the tiles hold up during re-entry.
Right, so they can learn and make them even better for the next flight.
They're always learning and improving. That's why they're so successful.
This whole launch is basically one giant science experiment. So many new things they're trying out.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just SpaceX. There's so much cool stuff happening in the space industry right now. New companies, new tech. It feels like a new era of space exploration is about to begin.
I know, right? It's so exciting.
And this Starship launch is a huge part of it. It's about so much more than just one company or one mission. It's about what humans can do when we work together to explore.
Okay, I have to ask. Is there anything about this launch that worries you? Space is dangerous.
You're right, it is. And even though SpaceX is really good at what they do, there's always a chance something could go wrong. It's complicated and things can happen.
So even with the best plans and the best tech, there's always some risk.
Yeah, definitely. That's why the data and the safety systems are so important. If something does go wrong, they can figure out why and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Makes sense. So besides those tiles, what are you most excited to see?
Oh, definitely. That satellite deployment test. Launching from a suborbital flight that's never been done before.
Yeah, it could change how we launch satellites. Maybe even smaller companies could do it.
If it works, it'll be huge.
And speaking of big changes, these reusable spacecraft are amazing. Flying them over and over again could make space travel way cheaper.
That's exactly the idea. And SpaceX isn't the only one doing it anymore.
It feels like we're moving away from those super expensive one-time missions. Maybe we'll actually have a real presence in space someday.
That's what Starship is all about. It can carry tons of stuff. It's reusable, and they're improving it so fast.
Okay, but what about regular people? Will we ever get to go to space? Or is that just a dream?
That's a good question. But all this space stuff affects us, even if we never get to ride on a rocket ourselves.
Really? How?
Think about it. GPS, medical scanners, new materials, even solar panels, all that stuff came from space research. When we invest in space, it helps us down here on Earth too.
I guess I never thought about it like that. It's not just about going to other planets. It's about making life better for everyone.
Exactly. And as we watch all these cool things happen in space, we should remember it's about all of us, not just astronauts and billionaires.
Well said. The Starship launch is a big moment. It shows how far we've come, and it's a reminder that there's so much more to discover.
And with companies like SpaceX, who knows what we'll do next? Maybe we'll have bases on the moon. Maybe we'll land on Mars. Maybe we'll even find life on other planets.
It's mind-blowing. But let's get back to this launch. You said you had more to tell us about those tiles.
I do. And this is where things get even more interesting. I do. Everybody's trying to guess what those new tiles are made of.
Yeah, I've seen all kinds of theories online.
Some people think it's like some crazy new ceramic stuff, and some think they just improved the old materials.
It sounds like SpaceX isn't saying much.
Nope. And I get it. It's a big secret. They don't want other companies stealing their ideas.
So what do you think is going on with those tiles?
Hard to say for sure. But I'm guessing they found a way to make the materials themselves way better. Maybe it's how they make them, or maybe they added something new to the mix.
Yeah, makes sense. They need those tiles to last for multiple trips to Mars and back, right?
Exactly. And don't forget, it's not just heat they have to deal with. All that shaking and bending, maybe even getting hit with tiny space rocks.
It's a tough job being a heat shield tile.
You said it. But this is cool. Figuring out how to make these super tiles could help us out here on Earth too.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like maybe we could use that tech to make tougher, more heat-resistant things for other stuff.
Exactly. Planes, buildings, maybe even stuff we use every day. Who knows?
Wow, space really does affect us in ways we don't even think about.
All the time. And that's what I love about it. It's about so much more than just launching rockets.
It really is. This launch is amazing for so many reasons. It shows what humans are capable of. It makes you want to keep learning and exploring.
It really does.
And it seems like we're just getting started. Imagine what we'll do next.
Exactly. It's an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure.
Well, I think we've covered everything about this Starship launch. New design, new engines, those awesome tiles, and what it all means for space exploration. This has been a great deep dive.
It really has. Thanks for having me.
Of course. We'll be watching the launch closely and we'll keep you all updated. And hey, if you have any thoughts or questions, let us know. Thanks for listening.